I'm the chaplain with Christian Care Communities in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I minister to seniors living on a senior living campus, primarily independent living in HUD-sponsored and garden homes, but I also spend some time in our health center or nursing home.
All right. I'm also one of the chaplains on campus in Hopkinsville. And when we first came, I was pastoring a little church out in the country part-time and closed that ministry about a year ago and was asked to be the part-time chaplain in the long-term care facility called the Christian Health Center, which is the nursing center for Christian Care Communities Hopkinsville campus.
For the first 6 months or so, we were, kind of in a high state of alertness. The CDC standards seemed like they were changing weekly. So you're trying to manage as much normalcy as you can while trying to be safe, separating. Well, no, maybe we can be together. Well, no, maybe we need to be separate, and doing all the protocol to keep people safe. And it just was a time of very fluid and what you might call a chaotic state, even though we really hadn't encountered the virus yet. And we were maybe having a certain sense of confidence because we had been so successful for so long. So maybe Rachel has something to add to that.
I think, I think about early this year in January when I was just getting started in that position and was just really kind of feeling a little lost at first because I hadn't anticipated seeing myself in a chaplain position in my ministry. And all of a sudden, here I was, and it was kind of a sink or swim type feeling. And then March came, and we found out that we were dealing with something that was going to be quite a challenge. And they started in ordering all the PPE and instructing us on what we were going to have to do, and working hard to keep it out of the building, out of the long-term care facility. And we did a great job, for 6 months. And we were very proud of that. And of course, I think everybody knows it came into the building through a staff person. And, we don't know their circumstance and how they were exposed and how all that happened. And so, nobody blamed anybody for that, but it was unfortunate. And once it was in the facility, it just went crazy. And we were one of the last healthcare facilities in the county to get it. And then over September, October, part of November, we were challenged to the max, and just lots of having to follow lots of protocol, having to be so careful with everything. And we know that some of our residents, long-term residents, died during that time to other causes, not COVID related.
Right.
We know some died with COVID, but they also had other issues. And so, to this day, we don't have a number of, we know this many died from COVID in the facility. That's not something we can say because we don't really know. And maybe that information's out there, but it's just not public for us to know that information. But it brought a lot of challenge to a lot of us.
Right.
I remember hearing early on, in staff meetings, because I go to, morning meeting every day, and hearing different staff members expressing their fear and their frustration and their concern about what are we going to do? How are we handling this? And I, as a chaplain, am saying, how can I help? How can I support you in this time? And one of them, I remember one of them saying, Rachel, you might just walk around the parking lot during break time, because some of the nurses are out in their cars crying. It was that overwhelming at first. And then it was amazing to watch that team pull together and say, okay, this is what we got to do. We got to do this, 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 and this. And maybe the next day, the ED would come in with some more rules or a little change here and there. And I feel like the team bonded during that time. I really do. There's some things when you've gone through a pandemic like that, and people have had to move rooms, and people have had to isolate, and people have had to, just reorient and regroup to how they do their job. It was pretty amazing.
Yes.
So, you talk about pre and during, and then post COVID. I know that we've had a couple of cycles. I think, Paul, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've had at least 2 or 3 cycles of testing now where everybody in the building is negative.
Oh.
So, yeah, we are still being tested twice a week. At first, it was every other week. Then
Right.
it became every week. And then we've been doing every Tuesday and every Friday. We're tested twice a week, all staff.
There was a combination of things that happened. There were residents, of course, in a long-term facility that didn't really understand what was going on. You could explain it, and you'd be going through the same explanation the next day, and just trying to be a presence and an assurance at the same time, that they weren't forgotten, that their family was okay, and kind of repeating a message to them, being the person that helped reassure and strengthen, and just be a face that's stopping by to to say hi, how you doing, and again reassuring when the staff is so busy and such a high tempo of vigilance in doing what they need to do to keep the residents safe. The staff might not have as much time to stop and visit and comfort and do kind of those kind of things, because they're so occupied with battling the virus, or setting up that barrier against the virus from coming in. So that was a big part of what, in the midst of it, that Rachel and I were doing as chaplains. Of course, after the virus came in and it went through the building almost so thoroughly, there was a period that we were we were going to 2-3 visitations a week, and that was a busy time, and that was a hard time, because we really didn't feel like we could provide the pastoral care or the chaplaincy care that we could, because they're distancing at visitations as well. So it's a challenging and draining time for all the staff, including the chaplains.
One in particular was a couple, and she had been coming in to see him because he'd been, dealing with long-term illness with cancer for a while. And then, of course, COVID hit and she couldn't come see him anymore. But I was in charge of their weekly phone call on Thursdays. And that's what we've done with a lot. I should have said that early on. We've done that with quite a few who are trying to keep connection with their families. We have iPads available, and so some do FaceTime weekly with their sons or daughters or spouses. Some do just a phone call and put on speakerphone and hold it for them because they don't have their own phone. Some have their own phone and they know how to operate it, and they talk to their family regularly. So, but this particular couple, it was just such a sweet experience to go in there, and I would say, "Hey, it's time to call your wife," and we'd get on the phone, and they would sing that song, "I love you, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck." And, just such a dear couple, both in their 90s, been married a long time, He had COVID, had come through it, and the cancer finally did its thing. As we know, that's what cancer does to a lot of people that we love. And so I was there through that process. And when they did allow her to come back in there at the very end. So she did see him, I think, the day before he passed. And then she came back in the next morning, and he was gone, and we were together, and it was good. It was sad, yes, but it was so great that they had the time they did and the time on the phone, and I felt like I contributed to that. I was an instrument in helping them connect. I will say I have a different feeling on that, I think, because a year ago, like I say, I was finishing my ministry with another church. And it was, for me personally, it was like one door closed and two more opened. With Christian Health Center and with Liberty Christian. So I'm way different than I was a year ago. Paul, I don't know how you would respond to that, but I feel like I'm just, I'm not sure what word to put on it, Amanda.
Okay.
But just feeling.
I mean,
I don't know what word to use.
Well, it just sounds like are you in like have you seen God working, in the midst of all this, and just
absolutely.
God just being God, and
and just crazy how God has turned, my whole ministry and how things were going a year ago. It's just completely turned around, and God is using me in a whole different way, in a whole different venue than I ever anticipated that I could be used in.
I don't know whether I can say that I can point to something that's changed me so much as I think I have some. I imagine, let me put it that way, that there's going to be some processing to go through. Maybe when things settle down, we get the vaccine going, and maybe we get the pandemic slowed down, and things return to some kind of normalcy. I don't know what that'll be, but I think there'll be some processing to work through some of the some of the grief of some of the losses we've incurred, whether that would be friends we made on staff, and the staff became overwhelmed and decided to move on to different venues to do their ministry as staff, or just some of the dear residents that we knew and that we miss, and that we really didn't have the same type of opportunity to memorialize and to comfort and have the same kind of pastoral care. And I think I think I will probably be looking back and still processing some of that for some time. Just do the things that you typically do, with your colleagues. You have conversations, you check in and support and encourage like you do just with regular week-to-week ministry in the church. There's often those opportunities to connect with each other, and the ministry here is in a different setting, but a lot of the same support systems are important to us as well.
I, for one, would just continue the vigilance of encouraging people to just take care of themselves and each other. And, we certainly feel that that love one another as I've loved you, that we know from Scripture is absolutely in action right now. And I think, we still have to be careful and wear the mask, wash your hands, keep your distance, do all the things that they are recommending. I can tell you it works. I just appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about this, and to know that it's going to be shared with some folks who will be interested to hear from the chaplain's point of view, and how it has pushed some of us to the very limit, but we've also found new courage and strength that we didn't know we had. And when you pray for it in the midst of the struggle, and you pray for that, God is there and God is faithful and will provide.